You know what really grinds my gears? When legends who should be retired can't stay out of the spotlight and feel the need to insert themselves into situations that have nothing to do with them. And before you hit that back button, hear me out, because what I'm about to tell you is going to make your blood boil, whether you're Team Undertaker or Team Oba Femi. The Deadman himself has just crossed a line that no one saw coming, and it's about to shake the entire wrestling world to its core. I'm talking about The Undertaker making moves that could destroy the most dominant reign we've seen in NXT history. What's up, WrestleScope family? If you're new here, smash that subscribe button because we're diving into the most controversial story in wrestling right now. And trust me, you're going to want to be part of this conversation. Let me paint you a picture. Oba Femi has been unstoppable. This man has dominated NXT like a force of nature, crushing everyone in his path with the kind of brutality and dominance we haven't seen since a certain Phenom ruled WWE with an iron fist decades ago. The North American Championship? Child's play for Oba. His opponents? Stepping stones. The man is a legitimate monster, and he's been building his legacy brick by brick, match by match, with his own two hands. But here's where things get twisted. Here's where the wrestling gods decided to throw a wrench into the most organic rise to superstardom we've witnessed in years. The Undertaker, the man who gave us 30 years of iconic moments, the man who should be enjoying his retirement, living off his legendary status, and letting the new generation forge their own paths, has decided that Oba Femi's name being mentioned in the same breath as his is somehow a threat to his legacy. Let that sink in for a moment. The Undertaker feels threatened by Oba Femi. Now, before the Undertaker loyalists start typing furiously in the comments, let me be crystal clear about something. I respect the Undertaker. We all respect the Undertaker. The man is wrestling royalty. His contributions to this business are undeniable, legendary, and frankly, immortal. But respect doesn't mean we give legends a free pass to gatekeep the future of this industry. I want you to pay close attention because the mainstream wrestling media is burying this story, and I'll tell you why in a minute. During a recent podcast appearance, The Undertaker was asked about the current landscape of WWE and NXT. Standard stuff, right? Veterans get asked these questions all the time. But when Oba Femi's name came up, when the interviewer drew comparisons between Oba's dominant reign and Taker's legendary streak and championship runs, something shifted. You could hear it in his voice. The tone changed. The Undertaker didn't just brush off the comparison. He didn't give the typical veteran response of, "The kid's got potential," or "I see something special in him." No, what he said was calculated, deliberate, and honestly, disrespectful. He questioned whether Oba Femi has paid his dues. He suggested that dominance in NXT doesn't compare to what he did on the main roster. He even went as far as saying that if he were still active, Oba wouldn't last 5 minutes in the ring with him, and that the young generation doesn't understand what it means to be a true phenom. Let me ask you something, WrestleScope family. Since when did we start measuring success by tearing down the next generation? Since when did legends feel the need to assert their dominance over people who are literally just trying to carve out their own space in this business? And here's the kicker, the part that really gets under my skin. The Undertaker then made some cryptic comments about teaching respect to those who need it, and that some reigns need to be put to rest. Put to rest? Really? We're doing puns about ending someone's championship run now? This is the same man who preached about passing the torch, who gave us that beautiful moment with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, who supposedly understood that wrestling is about evolution. But it gets worse, because this wasn't just talk. Sources close to WWE Creative have reported that The Undertaker has been in discussions, active discussions, about making a special appearance at an upcoming NXT event. And folks, we all know what that means. This isn't about giving Oba Femi a rub. This isn't about passing any torch. This is about The Undertaker inserting himself into Oba's story and potentially derailing the most exciting thing happening in NXT right now. Now, let's talk about why this matters beyond just one rivalry or one potential match. This represents a systemic problem in professional wrestling that we need to address. Wrestling has always had this weird relationship with its past. We love nostalgia. We love seeing our childhood heroes. But at what point does nostalgia become a prison for the future? At what point does bringing back legends stop being a special attraction and start becoming a crutch that prevents new stars from truly breaking through? Look at what Oba Femi represents. He's a physical specimen, a legitimate athlete who chose wrestling, who has dedicated himself to learning the craft, who has organically connected with the NXT audience through his performances, not through name recognition or family legacy. He's earned everything he's gotten. His reign hasn't been handed to him by creative, he's seized it through undeniable talent and presence. And now, just as he's hitting his stride, just as mainstream attention is starting to turn toward NXT because of his dominance, here comes The Undertaker to potentially overshadow everything Oba has built. Do you see the problem here? This isn't about whether Undertaker could beat Oba Femi in a match. This isn't even about who's a bigger star. This is about whether we, as a wrestling community, are going to allow the old guard to continuously stifle the new generation's momentum because of ego, because of jealousy, or because of an inability to let go. The Undertaker had his time, and what a time it was. Unparalleled, historic, legendary. But that time is over. His story has been told. The final chapter was written. The Deadman has rested in peace, or at least he should have. Oba Femi's story is just beginning. His legend is being forged right now, in real time before our very eyes. And he deserves the space to become whatever he's capable of becoming, without having to constantly live in the shadow of or directly combat the legends who came before him. Let's talk business for a second, because WWE is a business, and these decisions aren't made in a vacuum. I get it. The Undertaker's name still draws. His appearances still generate buzz. From a short-term business perspective, Undertaker showing up at NXT would spike viewership, create social media moments, and probably pop a number for that particular episode. But what about the long term? What happens when casual fans tune in because of Undertaker, watch him dominate or overshadow your current champion, and then tune back out because they got what they came for? What message does it send to your locker room when legends can just waltz in and threaten the champions who work every single week to build your brand? WWE has made this mistake repeatedly. How many times have we seen promising stars lose momentum because they were fed to returning legends? How many times have we watched young champions look weak standing next to the stars of previous eras? Oba Femi doesn't need The Undertaker. NXT doesn't need The Undertaker. What they need is for WWE to have the confidence in their current product, to believe in the stars they're building, and to protect them from becoming supporting characters in someone else's nostalgia tour. The number one complaint I see from wrestling fans is that WWE doesn't build new stars anymore. But then when they do start building someone organically, when someone like Oba Femi comes along and captures lightning in a bottle, what do? We bring back the old stars to remind everyone that the new generation doesn't measure up. It's contradictory, it's counterproductive, and honestly, it's insulting to everyone who's working their tails off to be the future of this industry. Now, in fairness, let's try to understand where Undertaker might be coming from, because despite how critical I've been, I do think there's a conversation to be had about his motivations. The Undertaker built his entire career on being the dominant force in WWE. His character, his mystique, his legacy, all of it is tied to being the most feared, the most respected, the most legendary figure in wrestling history. So when someone like Oba Femi starts getting those comparisons, starts being called a phenom, starts exhibiting the kind of dominance that defined Taker's career, maybe it hits differently. Maybe The Undertaker sees elements of himself in Oba and wants to test him to see if he's truly worthy of those comparisons. Maybe in his mind this isn't about tearing Oba down, but about forcing him to rise to an even higher level.
Or maybe, and this is harder to admit, maybe The Undertaker is struggling with what every legend eventually faces: irrelevance. The world moves on, new stars emerge, and as much as we love and respect what came before, the spotlight inevitably shifts to what's happening now. That's not a criticism. That's just the reality of time and evolution. And how legends handle that transition says a lot about their character and their true understanding of this business. So where do we go from here? What's the solution to this situation? If The Undertaker does appear at NXT, if this confrontation with Oba Femi happens, there's really only one acceptable outcome. Oba Femi must stand tall. Period. Not in a disrespectful way, not in a way that buries The Undertaker's legacy, but in a way that clearly establishes that this is Oba's time, this is Oba's moment, and that the torch isn't just being passed, it's being seized by someone worthy of carrying it forward. The Undertaker can play his role. He can be the legend who tests the rising star. He can be the final boss that Oba has to overcome to truly cement his legacy. But at the end of the day, Oba Femi needs to be the one standing in the ring with his championship held high, while The Undertaker acknowledges, either explicitly or implicitly, that the future has arrived. That's how you do this right. That's how you use legends to elevate the current roster rather than overshadow them. That's how you create a moment rather than just a nostalgia pop. But here's my fear, WrestleScope family. My fear is that WWE will book this the way they've booked so many of these intergenerational confrontations before. They'll protect the legend at the expense of the current star. They'll create ambiguity where there should be clarity. They'll give us a non-finish or some scenario where both guys look strong, but nobody truly wins, which ultimately means the legend wins by default because they maintained their aura, while the current champion looks like they couldn't definitively beat a retired wrestler. We've seen this movie before, and we know how it ends. The legend gets their moment, the crowd pops, social media explodes for 24 hours, and then we're back to normal, except now your current champion has lost a little bit of their mystique, a little bit of their dominance, and they have to rebuild momentum that they never should have lost in the first place. Look, at the end of the day, this situation is bigger than just The Undertaker and Oba Femi. This is about the wrestling industry's ongoing struggle to balance respect for the past with investment in the future. The Undertaker is a legend that will never change. His legacy is secure. Nothing that happens with Oba Femi or anyone else can take away from what he accomplished. But legends are supposed to elevate the business, not control it from retirement. Oba Femi represents everything we say we want in professional wrestling. He's got the look, the presence, the in-ring ability, and the aura of a future main event star. He's organically over. He's legitimately dominant. He's everything WWE has been trying to manufacture for years, except he's the real deal. The question is, will WWE protect that? Or will they sacrifice it on the altar of nostalgia in one more Undertaker moment? I want to know what you think, WrestleScope family. Am I way off base here? Am I being too hard on The Undertaker? Or do you agree that this is exactly the kind of situation that holds wrestling back from creating new legends? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's have a real conversation about this. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the controversy surrounding The Undertaker and Oba Femi, absolutely destroy that like button. It helps us reach more wrestling fans who are tired of the same old narratives and want real talk about the business we love. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because we're covering all the biggest stories in wrestling with the honest, unfiltered perspective you can't get anywhere else. No corporate spin, no playing favorites, just real wrestling analysis from real fans. Share this video with your wrestling friends, especially those who think legends can do no wrong, or those who believe the new generation doesn't measure up. Let's get this conversation started across the entire wrestling community. I'm out, WrestleScope family. Until next time, keep watching, keep debating, and keep pushing for the wrestling business we deserve, not just the one we're given.